Welcome to Mastering Your Financial Life, hosted by Judy Heft, the founder and CEO of Judith Heft and Associates, Financial and Lifestyle Concierge. This year, she's celebrating 27 years in business. In every episode, Judy interviews professionals who help others successfully manage their financial lives. You can find this show on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and more. Judy is the author of 2 books, How to Be Smart, Successful, and Organized with Your Money for a Better Today and Tomorrow, and her latest book, Mastering Your Financial Life Cycles, How to Successfully Manage Money in Every Decade of Life. You can read chapters of her books and catch prior episodes of the show at www.judithheft.com. Now, here's the host of Mastering Your Financial Life, Judy Heft.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the 75th episode of Mastering Your Financial Life. I'm really excited about that. And today I'm here with Dina De Giorgio. Dina is a partner at SSRGA. I'm not going to try to attempt to pronounce that. And she works in family law and matrimonial law and reproductive law. She's admitted in New York, and Dina focuses on mediation, to help her clients have the best experience possible and hopefully save them some money in that process. So Dina, welcome. I'm really happy to have you here today.
Thank you, Judy. I'm so happy to be here and to be joining your show.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure. So, I think that there's a lot of different things that you can do. I mean, nobody gets married planning to get a divorce, obviously. Hopefully it's going to be your happily ever after. But what's the most effective way that you can divorce-proof your marriage to getting started? Because money is such an issue all the time. When I first got married, my sister said to me, "Oh, you're only going to fight about money and kids." I'm like, "No, yes, that's what we fought about, money and kids." So it's interesting to, hear from a professional and, how do you look at that? What's the best thing that people can do to prepare?
It's very simple. Communicate about money. Money's brings up different emotions for people. Some people are uncomfortable talking about money. Some people are comfortable talking about money. Often money represents security for people. It represents love for people. So really talk to your future spouse. How do you feel about money? Are you a spender? Are you a saver? What are your expectations as far as combining your incomes and your assets during your marriage? What about debts and liabilities? Are you bringing any, credit card debt into the marriage? The more transparent and open that you can be from the beginning, ultimately, the more successful I think your marriage will be as it relates to money. And you can avoid what I see mostly in couples that are contemplating divorce is financial infidelity.
That's so true. The money piece, money is so, like you said, it's so emotional. It's not dollars and cents at all, really, because I studied to be a money coach a few years back, and I learned that we come to the table as adults with the money habits that were ingrained in us when we were kids, whether we knew it or not, whether it was a parent or, another adult that was influential in us. And, there's all the, like you said, we can be the fool, we can be the martyr, we can be the victim, we can be the creative type, we can have all different kinds of money habits. And then we bring them to the forefront with a partner who comes with the different or opposite habits, or even maybe some of the same. And that's not good either, because then you're not balancing each other out financially.
Right. And what I tell, really the reality of marriage is this. Usually for successful marriage, family life, you need a CFO and you need a COO, right? That's how successful companies function. And those two people have different roles and different visions, but they need to communicate and they need to meet, at least once a quarter. So if you're in a marriage, who's the CFO? Who's the COO? Have you thought about it? And then once you decide which role you're going to take on, you need to communicate and meet regularly and have conversations about, are you spenders? Are you savers? If you go on vacation, do you want to stay in a 5-star hotel or an Airbnb? Do you expect to continue to work? when children, if children are involved, if you have children together, do you think that your spouse should be supporting you or vice versa? So those are all sometimes uncomfortable conversations to have, but critically important, because most divorces, people think it's because of affairs and other relationships, but really it's about money and children. You said it absolutely correctly at the beginning of the podcast.
And I think in the beginning, when you're all love struck and, happy go lucky, you don't think those things are going to be a problem. You don't see all those red flags. And I think what you said about communication is the key thing. And I love the twist you put on it, having a CFO and a COO. That's so cool because it's really true. It really is. Yeah. And it's such a hard conversation for some people to talk about. And I've always said that running a household is like running a small business, and you need to know your numbers, whether you have a little money or a lot of money. And you just hit it on the head with saying CFO and COO. That made a lot of sense to me. Excuse me. So, these are some of the things. Keeping communication open is so important, especially around money, kids, whatever, religion, all those things that are important. So when should they consider a prenup? Who should consider a prenup?
Anyone who's getting married can consider a prenup. It used to be that prenups were only for, rich people. Not true. I get a lot of calls about prenups. Do I need one? Should I have one? And listen, the conversation about a prenup ties into the conversation we just had about talking about money, and also people feel like, they're superstitious. Why are you planning for your divorce when you get married? It doesn't make sense. But really, a conversation about a prenup, whether you ultimately sign one or not, introduces the money conversation and the asset conversation and the liability conversation. So it's a worthwhile discussion to have, even if ultimately you don't decide to sign a prenup. But people who are coming to marriage now with assets, expectations, income, careers, stock options, retirement accounts, what do you expect to happen with those assets? Do you want to share them? Do you want to keep them separate? I mean, the law says what you bring into a marriage is your separate property, but it can get complicated without a prenup.
So do you find that older couples need a prenup more than younger couples, or doesn't it matter? You said anybody when I asked
Everybody.
you. So.
I mean, obviously second marriages where you have children and you have assets, I see that often, but I speak with a lot of young professionals, people, their first marriages, but they have a financial life and they have assets and they're bringing, their money style to a marriage. And if you don't have that conversation and you end up having to get divorced, it becomes very complicated and expensive if you don't understand what will happen to those assets in the event of a divorce.
It's interesting you say that because it's so different today because, I don't know, 50, 60 years ago, maybe even more, and I'm saying, the woman usually was the one who didn't have a job necessarily or gave up her career when she got married to stay home and raise the children, or she went from mom and dad's house right into the marriage and she didn't have an experience or even time to build up those assets. That younger people today are different. They're coming in, they have careers, they've worked hard, and they have more money that they're coming in, even if they don't have an inheritance down the line or if they haven't inherited anything, but still on their own, they're bringing more to the table. So it's an important conversation to have.
It's also about setting expectations because people don't realize that the day after you're married, all your earnings, all your assets, becomes a marital asset subject to equitable distribution. That comes as a surprise to some people. And for some people, they don't want that. They think that what they bring and what they bring into the marriage, after the day they say I do, should remain theirs. But that's not what the law says. But if that's your expectation, you should communicate that up front, and then you can craft a prenuptial agreement that mirrors more of what your expectation and your mutual desires are, rather than being bound by what the equitable distribution law is. Let's say, for example, in New York, And that streamlines the divorce process, because look, you're having this discussion when you're presumably at the happiest point in your relationship. You're contemplating marriage, you're in love. You're gonna be honest and open, and hopefully strike a bargain that's based on mutual respect and love versus, other emotions that tend to take over when your marriage is ending.
That's really good information. Think about as being, preemptive in it and just preparing for the worst, I guess, but still keeping the positive vibes out there.
Exactly. Prepare for
you
the
never
worst,
know.
hope for the best.
Exactly. We never know. So let's take a little break here and we'll come back. We'll talk some more. We're here with Dina De Giorgio.
Hey there. I just want to tell you a little bit about my new book that just came out called Mastering Your Financial Life Cycles. And here it is. It's how to successfully manage your money in every decade of life. I co-authored this with my CFO, Liz Levy. And together we created this manual that's going to help you through every stage of life. We talk about having a baby. We talk about young adulthood, pre-retirement, what to do when you're at that age of retirement. If you're contemplating divorce, do you need an estate plan? We cover all of these, each subject in a different chapter. And I really think that you're going to find this so helpful, because at the end of every chapter, we have checklists that you can look at and you can use, and they can be a guide for you. So this is a wonderful manual that we've created. It's available on Amazon. You can also find it on our website at judithheft.com/book. And we're here for you. If you need anything, reach out. I hope you enjoy the book. Here's another picture of it, just so you know what's going on. Here it is. And I'm really proud of it. It's my second book. And I'd love to have you read it and give me your feedback. Judy Heft, judithheft.com, financial and lifestyle concierge, celebrating 26 years in business. And over the years, I've learned so much. And what I've been trying to do is impart a little bit of this knowledge to you, so I can help all of you become as financially organized as I am.
And hey, everybody, we're back here with Dina De Giorgio. So, we talked about when you're in love and getting all the prenups done, so you're still like lovey-dovey, happy with each other. But we know that things change sometimes for some people. And what is it? Is it still 50% of people get divorced? I don't know if that percentage
I think the statistic changes with generations. I definitely think that it's, probably between 40 and 50% of marriages, end in divorce. I think less people may be getting married. People are getting married later, so that changes it. But look, divorce is a reality for, unfortunately, a lot of couples.
And that's still a large percentage, no matter what it is. So, so then, so we got in this far, and then, everything fell apart. It wasn't what you expected, and you're considering divorce. So what are some of the important factors to consider?
So number one, you need information. So you need to, if you have a prenup, right, you need to, take a look at, how's my prenup going to affect my divorce? Hopefully, if you have a prenup and it was, it's a good one, it'll make the process much simpler, and it'll sort of take out a lot of the unanswered questions, and you and your spouse's decisions that you made at the beginning of your marriage or before you were married will control versus decisions made by judges or the courts or lawyers that you bring into the process. But the best way to prepare is to know, first of all, most importantly, your finances, money. It always comes back to money. What are your assets? What are your liabilities? Do you know, are you familiar with all of the family assets, your separate property? What's going on? What's your budget? Are you self-supporting? Can you support yourself post-divorce? If you're not, how do you get there? And, most importantly, find yourself a good team. Good legal professional, financial advisor, critical, help you figure out a budget, help you figure out, whether divide up your assets, make financial decisions. So a lot of homework should go into it beforehand. And hopefully you're having these discussions with your spouse, and it doesn't have to be so acrimonious, or it can be somewhat amicable. It's never easy, but it could be not so contentious.
So I think a lot of the mystique around it is people think, well, you know what, I'm just going to get divorced and it's going to cost me half as much to live. Wrong answer. It's going to cost you just as much to live, practically, almost the same. You're still going to have to pay for your living accommodations and all your food. This is pretty much the same. It might be a little bit less, but not much. And then there's the kids and all that other stuff. So I think a lot of people think that, you know what, this is going to be great for me financially. Think of all the money I'm going to save. And you're not going to save any money. So
no, not at all. And you're exactly right. And nowadays, there's a lot of push towards 50-50 co-parenting. And people think that, because they think, well, we'll each have the children 50% of the time and we won't pay each other any support. And that's fine. But as you pointed out, that's maintaining two identical households, using the same resources, presumably, where you only had to maintain one. So you really have to be thoughtful. Figuring out where you're going to live post-divorce is a really big issue. Can you afford to stay in the home? For a lot of people, the residence where they live with their family is their single biggest asset. Can you afford to not, liquidate that and take the equity out? Can you buy? Can you rent? How's your credit? If you don't have any income, would you qualify for a mortgage? Again, it really centers around money. If you take out the co-parenting piece of getting a divorce, it's a financial transaction. And if you really have to keep that in mind and make decisions, not based on emotion, but on finances and bringing in a professional like yourself to look at it objectively and give objective advice is really the best thing that you can do. What are your needs? What are your wishes? What are your wants? What can you cut back on? What can't you cut back on? How can you save money? And, people who plan and have a realistic post-divorce plan, the process is easier and they're much more successful.
And it's so true what you said. I think we don't know what we don't know. And we have no idea what's going on. I've seen in some, young divorced families or couples with young children, those kids have to have everything exactly the same at both houses. They need that, special stuffed animal, or they need those pair of sneakers that they really love, or that jacket. And so you're buying twice as much, so it really is a lot more expensive. People don't realize that at all. They really think, you're not going to ship the kids back and forth and make them miserable by not having that special thing that they want or need.
Right. And people, have this imagine that, the spouse that they no longer want to be married to is going to vanish. And if they don't have children and they're basically separating their lives financially or otherwise, there really doesn't have to be most post-divorce interaction. But if you have children, if you have grandchildren, if you have a life, this person is not vanishing, and you're going to have to continue to communicate about money, right? Especially if you have children. Do you want to duplicate efforts? How can you conserve? You have to share their expenses, extracurricular activities, tutoring. Maybe you have different money styles. Maybe you don't want to buy that expensive pair of sneakers, but your spouse does. You don't want to have the kids feel like, they have one lifestyle in one house and then they have a different lifestyle in another house. It's very demoralizing and upsetting for children, and it creates a lot of tension. So you really have to, again, be realistic about money and communication and work at it. And if you're unable to do it on your own, put a good team around you, people that can coach you, how to communicate, how to talk about money. There are like a lot of divorce coaches. There's apps out there. There's, like I said, people like yourself that have done this, have seen this, have experience, and can impart that wisdom on people.
And that's so true. There are a lot of great resources out there. So where are you admitted? Are you admitted in New York? Anywhere else?
So no, I'm admitted in New York. My law practice, my clients are primarily in the 5 boroughs, but mostly in New York County, Manhattan. And then I also have a lot of clients on Long Island, Nassau, and Suffolk County. Mm-hmm. I've been practicing for over 30 years. My focus area is family law. So I'm a trained mediator. I'm also a collaborative attorney. And if necessary, I litigate and go to court. I try to keep people out of court. I try to encourage people to choose less adversarial ways to get divorced, but sometimes that's not possible.
Yeah, you have to know who your client is, because somebody might come to you saying, I just really want a big fight. I hate this person. I want to take them for everything I can. And then the next person comes in and they're like, no, you know, we're going to remain friends and it's all going to be lovey-dovey. And so we want to do this amicably. So I'm sure you see everything.
Yeah. And listen, sometimes people would like to do it amicably, but they don't have they're not seeing the picture clearly, or they don't really understand who the other person is, and it's not possible. But it's the preferred way.
Absolutely. And how can our listeners find you?
So you can call me at 741-7047. That's my direct dial. If you Google my firm, Schwartz, Sladkus, Reich, Greenberg, Atlas.com, you can find my profile, a link to my email, my page. So I'm pretty easy to find. I also have a LinkedIn profile.
That's what I was just going to say. No, they can find you on LinkedIn. Well, Dina, thank you so much. This was a great discussion. I think we touched on a lot of interesting things, and hopefully if anybody has any questions, they'll reach out to you or me, and we're here to help. Thanks, Dina.
Thank you, Judy, for having me. It was really great.
My pleasure.
Thank you for tuning into Mastering Your Financial Life, hosted by Judy Heft. You can read chapters of her books and catch prior episodes of the show at www.judithheft.com. Thank you for your positive comments and sharing this show with others.